UFO story. The unusual thing about it was not only that we saw it, and it was directly overhead, at treetop height. It's very big, but that it didn't make any sound whatsoever. And what I found to be unusual as well was that we completely forgot about it basically for 35 years. I was sitting on the hood of a car. I can even remember the car. It's a 1965 Ford station wagon. My dad bought it in Alaska and drove it back to Pennsylvania. I remembered I was sitting in the hood of a car. I remembered watching and seeing what was going on. I did not remember who was with me. I contacted my sister 35 years later. I said, hey, you remember that time? And she said no. And I didn't know who it was until finally I was talking to Marilyn, my aunt, here one day about UFOs, and she said, hey, I saw a UFO. And I said, what did you see? And she described it, and it was exactly the same thing I saw, and then I realized it was Marilyn with me on the hood of the car. But this just struck me as odd that we would see something like this, never go back to investigate it, and then not even think about it again for 35 plus years. Well, let me describe what happened. When my dad retired from the Army, he got a job. He volunteered to be a field investigator for the UFO Research Institute in Pittsburgh. He was, he'd been in Vietnam, he retired, and whenever anybody called about a UFO sighting north of Pittsburgh, they called my dad. They'd send him out, and he would go out and investigate. This went on for a number of years, and he did all kinds of investigations, even hypnotizing people who claimed they were abducted and things like that.
At the time I was the investigator, I guess, for the UFO Research Institute that we had in Pittsburgh. And a group of people got together to investigate UFOs. Two of them were actually nuclear physicists. One was Stan Friedman, who I think still works with UFO business. And the other one, and then there was Stan Gordon from Greensburg area, who I think also still works with it. And then there was another one from Bradford, PA, nuclear physicist. But yeah, we had a group of pretty decent guys.
One night, it was about this time of year, it was in the fall, I believe it was 1968, I was still in high school. It was on a weekend because about 10 o'clock at night he came into my room and asked me if I wanted to go out on a field investigation, and I said sure. He said there was reports of strange lights. And this was out by Treesdale Farms, 10 miles out of Butler. We drove out there, and my mother, my dad, my aunt, and drove back a big long lane, but the lane had to be, it was half a mile long or something like that. And we sat, he backed the car. The orchard was alongside the lane the whole way, it seemed like. And he pulled way back in there, because this is where they were seeing reports of strange lights. He backed the car off the lane, faced it out across like a valley where you could see far into the distance. And we just sat there and waited. The only lights we could see were radio towers. There were two radio towers, as I remember it, one beside the other, clear off in the horizon there. As I remember them, red with a blinking light on top, and those are the only lights we could see. And we sat there for hours till about 1 a.m.
Apparently, at this time, we had gotten a number of reports of repeated sightings at this area. So we went out one nice pleasant evening and decided to look for ourselves and see if we'd see anything.
How long were you doing investigations for this?
Oh, probably a couple years at least. When I said I retired, I had 21 years in the military and I was a commander. And
Then my dad and my mom, they got bored and they grabbed a flashlight and they wandered off to the orchard to see if they could find any apples that were ripe. They were going to pick some, maybe to take home, I don't know. So they wandered off. Marilyn, my aunt, and I were sitting on the hood of the car with our feet on the bumper, facing across the valley, talking, just small talk, and there were two towers over in the distance. All of a sudden Marilyn points across the valley to these two radio towers and she says, "Look, they're leaning." And I looked at them and they were going like this. And I'm staring at them thinking, you know, what am I looking at here? The radio towers don't lean. And in my mind I'm going, well, they're not radio towers. The only way these lights can be moving is if they're actually flying or floating or something like that. This is what's going through my mind, trying to justify what I'm seeing.
We were sitting in Mom's kitchen, and your dad was already into UFOs at the time, and he said that he heard from somebody that out at Treesdale Farms, where this occurred, that there were these towers, and they leaned, and it was unexplainable why they would lean like that. So we went out there thinking maybe we would see something. I wasn't really into UFOs, and I thought, you know, it was just an experience in the evening, and it was a nice night. So we went out, and we were sitting there, and nothing happened at all. So they went wandering out in the orchard doing whatever, and then I thought there was 3 towers, and they did. They leaned over. I mean, almost flat. That they came over, and it was like, oh my God, something really is happening over there.
When all of a sudden, Marilyn, I don't know how she could be so observant, but all of a sudden she jumped up off the car, pointed behind us and said, "There it is, there it is." And she was waving her arms and yelling because, you know, my parents were down in the orchard. She's yelling and screaming, "There it is, there it is." And I turned around and looked, and coming from directly behind us, directly overhead, directly toward those leaning towers was this big, what I saw was a triangle of lights, very slowly moving, and not a slightest sound of any kind. And it was right over top of us. It was a treetop height, and it was as big as a huge airplane. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, as it's coming over, I'm looking at it and thinking, first thing I thought was, why would a UFO have lights? You know, I mean, this is supposed to be advanced civilizations if they're coming here. And then I'm thinking, well, the lights are continuous all the way around, so it can't be an airplane. You can't string lights from the tip of a wing to the nose. And all this stuff's rushing through my mind as this is coming over. And it came right out in front of us and just disappeared. It couldn't have been a matter of more than 5 seconds, I would say. You know, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, it's gone. Completely gone. No trace of anything there, just vanished. And my dad and my mother came running. They didn't see a thing. Nobody would have seen a thing. If Marilyn hadn't have spotted that, at that moment, I probably wouldn't even have seen it. I would have been looking at the ground or something. In 5 seconds it came, boom, was gone.
I felt a warmth. That's what made me look. But mine, what I remember, it was an orb. It was big, and it was covered with different colored lights. And it came over, And soon as, it was just like over us, it was gone like that. Just completely gone. And which made you think, did I really see that?
Exactly.
And
if we hadn't been there together and both seen this,
yeah.
we would have just brushed it off as something.
Yeah, and it was
a figment of our imagination.
We didn't even discuss it among anybody.
No.
It was because it was, I don't know, did they put something on our mind like, you don't talk about this? Or
Right.
Yeah, it was just odd. It was.
What sticks in my mind is that this, whatever it was, aside from the fact that there were lights and it was big and it was low and it was moving, it didn't make any sound at all. Nothing. It was totally silent. And I don't know of anything in human technology that can do that, or could have done it in 1968. I mean, it could have been a balloon or something floating over, lots of different explanations, but nothing can explain it. It's an unidentified, unexplainable aerial phenomenon. When I think back, I think, why didn't I go out there the next day and take a video camera, take some of my buddies with me, wait the next night, or the next night, I never went back. 35 years later, 40 years later, I did go back. I wanted to see that spot again. I wanted to look across that valley again. And it was gone. There was nothing, no orchard, nothing, just a housing development. So it had been completely erased, completely vanished.
It was huge. It was huge.
And
it was just like this, big.
How low? How far?
Yeah, it felt pretty low, yeah, because it came like right up behind us, and then up, not really that high, and then it was gone. And I wasn't a believer really. I just, it was just a nice evening to go out and maybe something would happen. Then when it did, it was like, oh my God. It was the warmth. I mean, it was a pleasant warmth. It wasn't something that was hot or whatever. It was just a very pleasant thing.
That was the beam that sucked us up.
I could have been. I don't remember talking about it among ourselves, even with your dad.
No.
And something that huge for nobody else to have seen. I think it was
totally
because
silent.
it came up behind us and they were.
It was totally silent.
It was absolutely silent.
If you didn't look at it, you didn't see it because there was no way to know it was
And if there hadn't been the warmth,
except for the lights.
it wouldn't have caused me to look up,
And the lights may have come on just as it approached us. It went over us with the lights.
Yeah, there was lights all over it.
And then turned off again.
Oh, I think it was just gone.
Yeah.
How that happened,
Well,
it was probably so quick.
I was staring directly at it as it went over.
Mhm. Oh, me too.
And when the lights went out. What looked to me, because I'm trying to rationalize everything,
Yeah, there wasn't anything to rationalize
And I'm
because.
thinking, okay, well, they just flipped a switch and turned all the lights out, that's why I can't see it now.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no shadow, no silhouette,
Nothing.
nothing.
So when you went back, were the towers there?
Went back where?
When you said you went back 35 years later?
No, I couldn't even find a place. The road was gone, trees
Yeah,
were
no,
gone,
it's.
everything was
You
gone.
couldn't see towers anywhere?
Oh, no, they were.
No, because they sold the property and put a housing
So there were
development.
no longer radio towers?
No.
No, and they were they were half a mile away from where we were, probably
Yeah,
a mile
but-
away. I mean,
Because they were
way-
short little things, that we could see because they were so far away. It just seemed like it just crept up behind us.
Yeah,
It
directly.
really wasn't going fast
No,
until it was just gone.
and right over top of us.
Right smack over top of us it was. Why didn't we talk about it to somebody?
Yeah, and then we never talked about it.
Never. I mean, not even to your mom and dad, anybody who were, your dad especially was in the business. I know what I saw and you know what you saw. And it's, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it's like kind of like an itch that you can't scratch because
You can't prove it. Yeah.
how can something that big, that close, not make any sound whatsoever?
And then just
Flying through the
disappear.
air. Flying through the air. something flying over your head at treetop height the size of a jumbo jet
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sound whatsoever and then just disappears. Why didn't we go back and see if we could see it again?